All right. It's your professionalism that I respect. Morning.
Hi, everybody. It's
Chris,
Thursday.
slide into frame, Chris. What are you doing?
Good morning, folks. It is great to see you out there today. Anthony, Stephanie, how are you? It's great to see you. Happy Thursday.
I learned something good this morning.
Please tell us.
Did you know that if you rearrange the letters of mailmen, they get really angry?
I think that's funny.
You're not sure. You don't seem so sure. Anthony's still trying to figure it out.
You rearrange the letters of mailmen.
They get really angry. Do we need to talk this? Do we need to talk through it?
You need to explain that. I'm totally not. It's not landing on me.
What's a mailman's job?
To deliver mail.
Deliver letters.
Right.
So if you rearrange them, they're all out of order, and they can't get them to the right houses.
To deliver letters. So the key part of that joke would be that they deliver letters.
Oh, Anthony, it's okay, buddy.
Yeah,
at least you're cute.
I know. I'm pretty.
At least you're pretty.
I met somebody really interesting this week.
Oh, did you?
I met the guy who invented Cheerios. I did. Most people don't know he's a serial entrepreneur.
I thought he was in jail because he was a serial killer.
I once again find myself in the need of having to follow up those two jokes, but I feel strong about my options this morning. Really sad story. The guy that works at the calendar factory, he got fired. He was taking too many days off.
Why are we like this?
It's time
for the self-reflection minute of How to Founder. Why are we like this?
What happened to us along the way?
What's wrong with us? What's wrong with you people?
I do think it's a great opportunity to say, because today we've got a very interesting topic. But let's just check in. Are you guys feeling lonely? And if so, I'm pretty sure I know why, because we're the only people that find our dad jokes funny. All right. What if starting an incredible company was actually the thing that caused your own unhappiness? Justin Jackson of Transmitter FM has talked about this strange loneliness of running a profitable bootstrap company. Past a point, nobody around, you can match the weight that you're carrying. Today on How to Founder, we're talking about the loneliness tax. In other words, how you as the founder are going to probably be a little bit lonely. I'm your host, Chris Franks, with me, Anthony Franco and Stephanie Hayes. We're doing something a little bit different moving forward. Anthony, Stephanie, you guys want to weigh in, talk about our new format?
I just like this format because I feel less lonely with both of you around.
Stephanie feels smarter with you and I around, Chris.
There's that too. I only do this podcast to give myself an ego boost.
Smarter and better looking. Yes,
I'm glad we could do that for you. Yeah, I'm glad we could.
Thank you. It's like big sisters. It's like big podcast hosts. You guys are mentoring me through.
I think that's terrific. Also, Anthony and I do have that incredible effect on making everybody else around us feel smarter, which is great. So I want to talk about this idea of loneliness, and I'm just going to
we didn't talk about the format, Chris, so we didn't actually answer the question.
Please. Yeah, actually, it's a good point.
So we're going to be reducing the number of episodes about how to founder topics. We're going to be doing our episodes once a week with the three of us, where we're just going to dive in deep, the three of us. Occasionally we will have a guest, but look, the episodes where it's the three of us, we're just a lot more likes, a lot more engagement. So we're gonna go with that formula. Chris and Stephanie and I are also going to spin off our own little 30-minute shows once a week on the topics that we care about. Mine will be AI. Stephanie, what's yours going to be about? Yours is going to be about
on exits and building an asset-based business.
Yes. And Chris, you're gonna do the whole CEO leadership thing.
No, I'm just gonna be making fun of you guys for that time.
Also,
same difference.
Yes.
Yeah. It's going to be the breakdown episode. So this would be the breakdown episode of
this is leadership from the perspective of what not to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Featuring all three of us.
Yeah. I have no idea what I'm going to be doing. I'm still, after 199 episodes, trying to figure out what value I actually get from spending an hour with you guys, twice a week. But at some point,
you know what, you feel less lonely, and I think that's a good segue into our topic today.
It's a very good segue into our topic. All right, so let's talk about it. This is real. This is a very real part of the job. Talk to me about your experiences in feeling lonely.
I'm this weird extrovert who likes to be by myself. So the loneliness thing, I think, is not about I'm on my own all the time without people. Loneliness is I'm carrying the weight of everything, and there's no one here to share it with me. Anthony, what do you think?
I think loneliness for me comes from the unwillingness to share the burden of the things that you have to think about, the worry and the stress of trying to grow and run a business is you can't talk to your employees, you can't talk to your spouse, you can't talk to your board, you can't, certainly sure as hell can't tell your customers. So when you take this job, look, I think I've seen a lot of leaders do this wrong, where they share everything, and it's a disaster, right? So I think if you're doing this correctly, you have to bear the weight on your own. It is honestly why I care so much about this podcast, and not only do we get to share, but hopefully we're alleviating some of that burden for other founders, where they at least get to see we're struggling with the same things they are.
So basically,
I think it's I was just thinking about the fact that maybe we should be charging Anthony some therapy bills, Stephanie. I think that maybe
for the amount of times we have to deal with his shit, I would say so. Yeah.
Oh, you're just getting surface level stuff. Wait, just wait.
Your poor wife.
You think it's hard dealing with me, guys? I have to deal with me 24/7. Feel bad for me.
So what this is distilling down to is it loneliness, or is it the pressure of the burden, right? It's because loneliness says to me, oh, nobody's around me and I'm doing this all by myself. And you are, in the sense, but it's more like it's the burden, right? It's the feel. And I actually think that this doesn't have to be this way, right? I disagree with you, Anthony, that you have to take on the burden. There are ways for you to share that responsibility, or just get supported in other ways, right? It doesn't have to be your employees that you talk to. It doesn't have to, and there is a sense of, sharing that you can do with your team too, but to a level, right?
Yeah, there is, but it's always guarded, and it's never fully transparent. I tried that. I tried sharing every early and effective in Effective's stages, when we were early on, we were totally transparent about where we were. And employees came to me and said, look, I don't want to know, like, you're scaring the crap out of me. I don't want to know this stuff. You deal with that. Let me deal with the wireframes I'm working on. I don't want to deal with all the other crazy business stuff that you're having to deal with. So I thought I was doing them a favor. All I was doing is making it difficult for them to sleep at night. It wasn't fair.
So I think that the first thing is probably the important point for us to define is, what are we talking about when we say loneliness? And it's not the idea of typical loneliness where you have nobody around. As a matter of fact, you have lots of people around. And particularly as your business grows, you have a lot of people that are there and that depend on you all from every single angle, right? From every single side. Like, every stakeholder in the company somehow depends on you. That in itself is the type of loneliness we're talking about, because that burden that you carry, it's not very common. Now, I want to take you guys back to maybe times that you had before you started your first company, which I don't think you ever had like a real job, but some of the people I was closest to, some of the people I was closest to were people that were my coworkers, that were my peers. And the problem is you don't have any peers in doing this work. Is that a fair way to talk about it?
Yeah, that can come across, that can land poorly. Peers means not, peer can also mean equal, right? So, so I wouldn't put it quite that way. You don't have anybody that you're working with, unless you're working with the co-founder. Anybody that you're working with that shares the same burden.
Yeah. The same responsibility.
Yeah.
Right. Because we're like different. Entrepreneurs are just built differently, right? Like you take it on because you're comfortable. Nobody's comfortable with taking on major burden and responsibility, but because you know that you're gonna have to do that and you're willing to do that, like you don't go in blind. But I think it's when it comes down to the like, man, I got to solve this problem by myself. I think that's a mindset thing, right? Because yes, at the end of the day, you have the ultimate responsibility. But I've been in some of my businesses where I knew that sort of down at but it never felt like a lonely or a burden, because I would do a lot of the strategic work with my colleagues, and I would do a lot of I didn't have the burden of always trying to solve all the problems. I just, at the end of the day, I knew that I was going to be on the hook financially for everything, but that's kind of always there. So does it have to be you sitting in the corner constantly feeling like you have to solve everything? I don't think so.
I agree with that.
I want to change the question for a second, because I think that there's a secondary component to this. So the people you work with, and you spend a lot of time with them. And I think that even that might be something that you can get your head wrapped around, because again, it's your job, it's what you've done. But there's a secondary component. Both Anthony, you and I have both gone through this, which is you have this incredible family that love and support you, but you cannot, at least in my case, could not be entirely honest about what was going on and the struggles and the challenges and risks, because you're causing pain with your family.
Yes.
It's not necessarily their pain. It's not their burden to hold. I know that's been both of our experiences.
Yeah. I think I've failed miserably at this. And from both, sometimes I've overshared, sometimes I have undershared. And I don't think I've struck the right balance. If I'm being honest, I think that I'm looking for advice on how to do this better. I don't know if I have anything and maybe there isn't. I know entrepreneurs where their spouse is working with them, and that's a double-edged sword as well. You're being fully transparent, but also you're setting yourself up for making it difficult. Being married is hard, and making adding another layer of confrontation can be even more difficult. So, you know, my poor wife, she didn't sign up for this life. She didn't think she was signing up for this life, but yeah, I don't know. Steph, you seem to be a relatively balanced individual. How are you dealing with this?
I mean, the key word is relative in
Relatively,
that sentence,
yes.
but I appreciate
Chris and I.
You know, I think that there's a dog here. I think that there have been many times in my life. In fact, I would say most of my life that I was very like I did this wrong, right? And I did not share any challenges because I was embarrassed. I was humiliated that I had them, or I didn't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable or what have you. But I was like, shit, things are bad, right? And I don't think I did a very good job of that most of my life. At this point in time, I'm in this place where I've become very, very clear about what I want my life to look like. And that takes precedence over anything else, right? And so I'm not willing to sit in that kind of energy anymore. And I have learned to share. I've learned to ask people for help. I've learned to have people around me that can support me. And that's taken 50 years, right? But I think it comes, it like when you do it enough, you like this becomes sort of, how much of a challenge it actually is, and you know what the consequences actually are. And sometimes that's helpful.
I want to poke on this just a little bit more, because one of the jokes that we've had, Anthony, is like when we go into parties, the only people we want to talk to, we find another founder or entrepreneur, and it's our journey is so wildly different than the typical corporate journey. It's so wildly different. And there are similarities in the sense that we get up and we go to work, but our jobs can be so demanding. And I'll give you just a really easy example. I fucking hate when people say, "Oh my God, I'm so busy at work." I'm like, oh, are you working 80 hours a week and waking up at 2 a.m. because you can't sleep because you can't figure out how you're going to do payroll? Like, because that's busy to me. Like, that's what founders call busy. And I'm not trying to say it's poor. I'm sure that they're busy too. But it creates a disconnect. Just the world that we live in is this kind of perfect storm where it disconnects us from other people, because we always talk about, like, when you go to a party, like, hey, what do you do? What do you do for work? Things like that. It's almost impossible to describe what we do for work. And I know that this is being slightly hyperbolic, but it's kind of been my experience.
You should see me in a conversation with someone who's talking about the latest union stuff that's happening in their union. Like, it is, and so to your point, maybe it's not loneliness, but it's isolation, right? It is really true. Like, I actually really hate when people ask me, what do you do? Because then I have to explain it, and most people don't understand. Like, most people don't get it. And so we tend to end up in communities of people who are also founders or entrepreneurs, because you have to find someone who gets it. The amount of conversations I've had with people who are like, well, that's not right. You shouldn't have to work that many hours. Or why don't you just, I'm like,
you need to talk to your boss.
Let me call the shop here, right? Like, and it's fine. Like, not everybody has to understand this, but you do need to be surrounded by people who understand it and understand why you keep going. Because for most people, they're like, why don't you just go and get a job? And I'm like, I honestly couldn't. Like, and I'm not in a place where I could get a job that pays me as much as I make as an entrepreneur. It's true. Like, there's no headquarters here. There's no, and so, like, the understanding, that sort of connection that you're looking for with people is actually pretty hard to make out in the general public, right?
Anthony, your thoughts, because I know that you struggle with this as well.
Yeah, I don't know if I have my thoughts. It's lonely. I'm lonely. I think the only way out of that is to surround yourself with other founders. And talk about it with other folks. I think I think I'm relatively healthy in this area because I have a lot of people that I can reach out to and say, hey, I'm dealing with this. I'm trying to do this. Chris, I talked to you 2 days ago. Came down to your office and said, dude, I'm at a point right now where I need to go find a little bit of work to pay for the product and the program that I'm building. So having that network of friends that have your back it's critical to survival.
There's also judgment. Like, I remember for the longest time, my parents were just like, oh, you're doing consulting work into government? That's great. You could go get a good government job from. I'm like, I would slit my wrists in probably the first day because I actually know what it's like to work in government. And it took a long time for them to understand that me doing what I'm doing right now actually gives me the most job security that I could ever hope for anywhere. It also lets me make a whole bunch more money. And it's also just how I'm wired. And I know that not everybody is wired that way, and that's fine. But ironically, my dad started up his own business too, but he also had another job, right? So trying to explain yourself to people, I find I very often feel like I'm just like a spoiled little kid who's trying to say, but I want this.
Do you find just to switch it a little bit when you're hanging out with non-entrepreneurs? Chris, I don't think you suffer from this, but I certainly do. I'm wondering if it's the same. I have nothing to talk about.
That's a you problem, Anthony.
Is it? Okay, I'm fine with that. But
don't you have any hobbies? Anything?
Yeah. Entrepreneurship. Like that's this podcast, like everything that I do, anything that's outside of family and work is still work.
You're not wrong. Like,
yeah. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I was just saying, like, you're not wrong. I do. Now that you're saying this, I'm realizing something, and I'm going to have an existential crisis. But when, like, I think about being out with this group of ladies for my friend's birthday a couple weeks ago. And I definitely, like, my friend who was having the birthday, she works for herself. She also has a sort of job, but she's kind of a contractor. So she knows what it's like to run your own business. But I looked around the table and I don't feel connected to the people who don't know this life. Right. And
you mentioned
nice
it too,
people.
Steph. You mentioned it too, right? You're talking to somebody that's in a union. Talk about completely different worlds. Somebody that is expecting the union or their company to provide certain benefits to you. And contrast that with you eat what you kill as an entrepreneur. It is such a different worldview that you almost have nothing to talk about outside of the weather, which
like, and our kids and stuff like that. But it is a different worldview, and it's not to say that I have problems with unionized jobs.
Neither do I. No,
but it's just like the entitlement is so opposite to, like, we are the opposite of entitled. What's the opposite of entitlement?
Clueless.
Yeah, I was gonna say dumb.
Just like it doesn't compute, right?
Yeah.
So far, for founder friends out there, we've said, look, you're going to be incredibly isolated at work. You're not going to have people at work because you can't. As a leader, you can't just dump that shit on people. That's a terrible way to go about it. Secondarily, you're probably not going to be able to have a truly honest relationship with your family, because if you are part of, unless you're independently wealthy and, money doesn't really matter, the risk factor, your spouses, your partners, your friends didn't necessarily sign up for the same roller coaster that you did. And now we're saying that amongst our community at large, the people that
You
we're
can't have friends.
you can't have friends. So this is going great so far. This is going terrific about loneliness. So
This is just a venting session, I guess.
Yeah. No, I think that there is a component there where there's two sides to this. The first is you have to get a little bit comfortable with this idea. And I think all of us have. You're not going to find that you can immediately connect with a random person off the street. And I don't get to go home and talk about my day to my wife. My dog is a terrific listener, though, for the record. So I do talk a lot about my day.
Does he ever talk back?
She mainly just then runs away because a trash truck is coming up the street, and that's it's good. So I want to start to talk about, what do you do? What do you do with this? And Anthony, the obvious answer is that we go and try to surround ourselves with other entrepreneurs. We talk to other entrepreneurs. We build community around that. You and I've done this a ton in our lives. I really genuinely feel like it's important that we kind of reboot and start to do it more. But how do you start to deal with these things in a way that are constructive versus destructive? And I want to be really careful here, because we're on the surface of something that's very, very, very important, which is, we've talked about it in the past, but there is a mental health crisis with founders.
Yes.
Twice as likely to have substance abuse problems. I'm getting the numbers wrong. I'll pull them up just so I get it correct. But much higher episodes of alcoholism and drug use, depression, anxiety, divorce are all way more prevalent for founders. Way more prevalent. That's a problem, right? We need you. We need founders to go do this great work. And so really, we need to, what do we do about this, guys? How do we help founders not feel this level of isolation? How do they start to connect with people?
Outside of going to surround yourself with other entrepreneurial friends and getting involved in, just go to a meetup, right? Just go to something that you can just surround yourself with other people like you. The things that, for me, the healing force is actually building. Also exercise, touching grass, those touchy-feely things that I generally don't have I don't have
Anthony has
time
one
for.
feeling.
I have
we're
one
gonna show you
feeling.
his
So, but those things actually do help. So when I'm feeling lost and alone, just going to the gym makes a big difference. Steph, you have other things that you do too. Like, how do you get past this? Chris,
Well,
how do you get past it?
Yeah, I think this is the balance thing, right? Like it's education, it's listening to things, it's the normalization of what's going on. I think first-time founders go through this a lot harder than people who have been through it a couple of times, and most founders are multiple-time founders, right? At this point in time, I sort of it's a values alignment thing, right? So yes, there's always risk on the table. I owe somebody a whole bunch of money that may not happen. There's always something like that. But I think it's listening to other stories of other people who have been through this helped me realize that it's not happening because I've done something wrong. It's just this is sort of the gamble that you take, right? But also the balance. And I got to a place last year where I was like, here's what my life needs to look like. And nothing is going to, because I was getting into that real isolation hole. So I brought on partners. Partners in my life, partners in my businesses, partners. And I started relying more on people around me to be engaged in the problem solving, because I think this is something that we do. We think we have to solve everything. We think we are the ones who have to have all the answers. And I started to engage my team a lot more and hey, walk through this with me. Let's figure this out together. And they're like, yes, please, let's do that. As opposed to, what I was doing, which was just trying to take everything on myself. And that's a new thing, right? And yes, the exercise, like that's a no-brainer for me. Like it's making the decision to go out for a run instead of working more on this thing right now. That has flipped, right? Where that becomes the priority.
Chris, what do you think?
It's, to me, one of the things that was so silly and so hard for me to get to was the fact that you guys can say it was potentially like, self-medicating, but I was really deep into endurance athletics. I've done 6 Ironmans. I've done, probably 15 half Ironmans. And those are incredible things. And to do those, you have to build your body up and your endurance and your stamina up. And you have to do exercises to get yourself into a positive physical state where you can do that. The thing that was so obvious, and I have no idea why it took me so long to figure out, is you have to do the same thing with your mind. You have to cultivate positive mental health the same way you cultivate positive physical health. And in a lot of cases, they're related. If I don't exercise 5 days in a week, I got a little red flag around my mental health. I'm starting to go, I'm not sure, because it's so important for me to be able to burn off that stress and energy through working out. But I am not shy about talking about seated meditation, mindfulness. I've taken it to the next level of where I'm a member of a Sangha and have gone in kind of the more spiritual side of mindfulness into Buddhism. But it is the study of mindfulness and meditation. It has absolutely proven can help you deal with stress. And so don't do the weird shit that I do. But yes, do sit down and go through a 5 or 10 minute guided meditation every day, because it will help you. And those and all these other things that you're talking about are moments of cultivating positive mental health. They're exercise. Just like I exercise for my body, you have to do the things that will cultivate that positive mental health. And I think, even though it's silly, your mood is easy to determine. It's easier to determine whether you're in a good mood than it is whether you're in good cardiovascular shape. And so it may be oversimplification, but to me, it is highly personal. And I think it's probably why, all 3 of us exercise, and really most genuinely happy people I know exercise. But what those activities to be able to cultivate positive mental health are genuinely very personal, but they have to become part of your life.
Yeah, it's one of the resilience things. Oh, this is a great comment. I would say also that you can tell me if you agree with me here, but one of the things that most people who are founders, the one thing that causes them to be isolated or just to not share is shame, right? And what we know about shame is that shame cannot survive the light. So
Megan, that's a great comment.
Founders being able to have a safe place to actually verbalize what they're ashamed of or what they think they should be ashamed of. Like, this is that self-awareness thing coming back again and again. If we understand that this feeling I'm having right now is the result of me feeling shame about something, the best thing I can do is bring it forward. And then all of a sudden you're surrounded by people who are like, oh yeah, this happened to me too. Or, hey, this is like separating yourself, your being from the business and the results of the business is like the next move, right?
I want to read this
comment.
just for people. I want to read this just for people that are listening and not watching. And then Chris, I'd love your comment on it, and then you can take us into the speed round. But Megan Sullivan just said, one of the battles I have is the constant feeling of guilt that I should be working on whatever high priority thing is sitting there waiting for me, which doesn't always let me feel engaged with the relaxing things. Sometimes it's about letting go of the guilt because those moments are just as important.
So thanks for leading me into it, but I as the host was supposed to read it. You guys will react, but thanks for letting me react. Here's what I'll say, Megan. Yes. Yeah. I am genuinely aligned, and I'm sorry, but every single one of us have felt that. And I don't quite know how to solve it other than the fact of, there's all kinds of those individual things, but the guilt around, oh my God, I have so much shit to do. And I'm going to sit down on the couch because I fucking have to. Like, I have to. And then you feel guilty about sitting down on the couch. Like, it is a wildly, wildly fucked up thing. And
That's
I don't
3.
know. What do you guys think? Yeah.
That's
And I
3
don't-
swears.
He means it. I'm going to offer just one
now
little thing.
We're
here.
explicit episode. This is great.
I'm going to offer one little thing that actually is a bit tactical. Megan, I totally understand. And it's ongoing. And for some reason, all this has sort of shifted for me in the last year. But what I learned was that there's a time of the day, like people are always like, go work out in the morning. If I try to work out in the morning, all I'm doing is sitting there thinking about how badly I want to start my work, because my mornings are the best time for me to be working in whatever. And I have given myself permission that by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that is when I work out. That is when I exercise. That's the best time for me. And it's a non-negotiable. And it's getting to the point where I have done enough self-study to convince myself that that's more important than, like, we're not saving lives. It's more important for me to do that so that I can keep going. So I think there's a little bit here about, like, what are your rhythms and what are your cadences in terms of your work? And if I tried to force myself to do something relaxing and fun in the morning, it wouldn't work because my brain is constantly going, oh, I want to get to these things. I'm most fresh right now and blah, blah, blah. So I think there's like actually a sort of tactical approach to this too, is understanding what your rhythms are and your cadences and deciding when, like, if I fit something in the afternoon, I feel like I've already accomplished like a bunch of stuff in the day. So I'm okay to go and do it then.
One kind of final point as we go into this, and I pulled up these numbers because I do think it's pretty important. 54% of founders experience burnout, 54% suffer from insomnia, 83% experience higher stress. On the loneliness problem, the scrolling back to the loneliness piece, 73% of founders reported mental health. We are almost twice as likely to have any mental health condition as opposed to the general population. Depression, we are 30%, about twice as likely to be depressed. We're like 10 times more likely to have ADHD, but that's just me. Also, I didn't pay attention to the whole line. I just kind of
I just took my meds.
yeah, exactly. Bipolar, all the stuff. The point there being is that, and this is genuinely really critically important that we talk about when we don't bury this conversation. If you're suffering as a founder, you need to get help. And I was clinically depressed, and it took me a really long time to go actually get some mental health services, and I should have done it way, way sooner. It was way easier. We need you. This is the only other reframe I can offer for this part of the conversation is you as a founder, we can't afford you. Our world can't afford you to burn out. And so go sit on the couch, because if you burn out, your company is going to burn out, and that value you're creating in our world is going to burn out. And so use this as like this cognitive reframe to be like, oh, I actually do need to take care of
our
myself.
burnout and loneliness connected?
I don't even know what burnout is. Like, aren't we all burned out? Like, isn't that 54% of founders are burned out? 100% of founders are burned out.
Well, so burnout, and this is another one of those careful things. It's like when my kids say, "Oh, I'm so depressed," and I'm like, "No, you're not. Depression is
I was
an
bullied
actual
today.
thing." Yeah, I was bullied today. So burnout is actually now a clinical diagnosis of whereby you have reduced productivity with the same amount of hours worked. And there's a lot of different causes for it, but they're starting to get to a point where we're able to put a much better label on it. But every founder knows what we're talking about. It's like, oh, you put in 40 hours and you got 20 hours worth of work done because you sat and you stared at your screen and you couldn't focus and you couldn't get things done.
Yeah.
A very important conversation before we go in the speed round, and I know that we're running long, but other advice that you could give founders What do you do? Anthony, you said you touch grass, you exercise, you surround yourself with other founders. Any other tactical things? Stephanie, I think the time blocking, so critically important, organizing your schedule, particularly if you work from home. This was a huge deal during the pandemic of not having the line between home and work. What else? What are some of the other tactical
The
things?
the other thing related to loneliness or that anxiety that one of the things that I do to handle the anxiety is to tackle the thing that I least want to do right now.
Well, that doesn't sound very fun.
It isn't, but now it's behind me. So do the thing that you least want to do right now, and now it's behind you. And then maybe do the next thing that you want to do least.
Okay,
And
I'm gonna
go ahead.
No, sorry, I thought you were done. We have a delay here.
Yeah, no, I'm done.
I'm gonna go like full not woo, but full like mental health here. But one of the most useful mental models that I have encountered in the last very recently actually was the concept of parts work and its internal family systems. And it's the idea that, you know, we are made up of all these like parts of us. And there's, you know, this little character over here that represents one of our core wounds. And there's another character over here that represents one of our core wounds. And then we have all these managers and these firefighters and all the things that happen to us and the way we respond to them and the way that we react to them, they are in relation to whether they're trying to defend or firefight against the opening of a core wound. So just to set the stage, that it was a really helpful model for me, because what it did is it said all these things like conventional mental health support says, if you're not a whole person with all these things wrapped up together and it's all healthy, you know, if you talk about these different parts, you have bipolar disorder or you're a dissociative personality or whatever. But actually, it's a really helpful mental model, because what it did is it said, actually, at the very core, you as a self is the only, like, that's the unburdened part of you. And all these parts are things that are the result of experiences you've had or whatever. And then you become this very, like, you know, this very unburdened, almost like a coach to all these different parts. So all this to say, I think one of the mistakes that founders make is that they become the identity of their business is their identity. And they have this identity as, I have to be all of these things, and everything comes back to me as a person. And whether I succeed or I fail in my business, it's because I have succeeded or failed. And actually, that's not true. So how can you look at yourself and your identity as a separate thing to the business, and that you're here sort of observing it and doing your job, but at the end of the day, you as a core individual are not tied to what happens at the business. And I think it's really extremely important. And that involves you doing a lot of self-awareness work, a lot of identity work. And that, I think, is what sort of took me out of the tying myself to the results of my business and making myself feel like I am less than or in the other direction more than, because of what's happened inside my business.
So our friend Megan says, great response. I'll take personal credit for that, Megan. You're welcome. I think it was I'm just kidding, guys.
No, we're just
right.
used to you taking credit for things that aren't yours. So that was
exactly.
like, yes,
this
standard.
Important lesson as a founder,
procedure.
credit for everything. Yeah.
Exactly. All right, let's go to the speed round. This is like a therapy speed round. I love it. Name the loneliest hour of your week.
So I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and start working. So the loneliest hour is 2 p.m. in the afternoon, where I am so tired that I need to take a nap and I don't. That's the hardest, loneliest hour for me, is 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
I don't ever feel lonely, because I'm talking to people all day, but I would say maybe in the evenings. Like the evenings are the times that I have decided I'm not working anymore. And then I just sit there and I'm like, I'm a social person and I'm not being social and I'm not talking to anybody and I'm not making use of this. But sometimes I just kind of want to sit there and do nothing, honestly.
Founder loneliness is the price of admission. True or false?
True.
Pick. Should your spouse carry the weight of one of your worst weeks, or should you keep it from your spouse?
100% they should share it with you. And if they don't know that you've just had one of the worst weeks of your life, then you've got a problem in your relationship.
Which is a whole different episode. Runway problem. Does the team hear it before the board?
No. No.
All right, Stephanie, two best friends, one founder, one civilian. Which one do you keep?
What's the other one?
Civilian, non-founder, somebody that does something else.
If you have to choose one,
You have to
a
choose
founder or
one.
a civilian?
Yeah, choose one. Yeah, it's your best friend. I like that we call it a civilian too, which is a terrible analogy, but
I don't want to, but I'm going to say the founder because there's just so much wrapped up in it as a lifestyle, and being able to have those conversations is extremely connective.
Chris, I want to ask this question of you too, because it's still in the speed round. You skipped it, but should employees see you cry?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, you guys all see me cry. I cry all the time. I think it's fine, but it just depends on what type of leader that you are and how you show up. If you show up as an asshole and suddenly you're crying, then people are going to get a little freaked out. If you're somebody that's actually generally heart forward, I think it's pretty good. I'll read this, and so we get out of here. In some of my mental health journey, I discovered the psychological community is now recognizing and researching that loneliness is a state. It's a noun, a condition. It's a different feeling than aloneness, where you may be physical or solitary isolation. It gives it a front seat to the thing like depression, anxiety, and other recognition of mental health conditions. Brendan, thank you for that. That is a very, very good insight. It's critically important, and it's a great place for us to end the episode. Really,
hi, Brendan. I know Brendan. How you doing, buddy?
I mean, it's people like Brendan and your mom and my mom that actually keep our viewership up. Anthony, it's great. Thank you to everybody listening. Who's going to get us out of here? Anthony, you want to get us out of here today?
Yeah, sure. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Please be sure to visit us at howtofounder.com, where you can connect with us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify channels. Please hit that like button. Leave us a review if it's 5-star. If it's not, go leave somebody else a review. You are the pioneer of economic prosperity, and we're just grateful to be there along the way with you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Steph. Bye.
It's almost as if you have no business training at all.